This is White Plains Week, the weekly news roundup. With your moderator, John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And Peter Katz, noted broadcaster and journalist. White Plains Week, what's happened, who are the newsmakers, and what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, and it's Irish Week in White Plains starting today. John Bailey, Citizen Net reporter with White Plains Week, the City News Roundup show with my compadres, the senior correspondent of the world, Peter Katz, on my right, with us about 8 years now. 9 years. 9 years. And, of course, the man who's been there since the beginning and will be here forever, Jim Benerofe of SuburbanStreet.com. Welcome, guys. And, Jim, headlines, first order of business.
And here are the headlines for this week. The Prelude, first new building in the dream of the new Winbrook, officially opens. Westmoreland Avenue, former WARC building, approved, and also approved for county IDA financing. White Plains police warn of telephone scams that demand immediate payment to well-known organizations. The Commissioner of Education for the state of New York will meet with county superintendents and administrators Monday at White Plains High School. The public may attend at 4 p.m. School district marches towards a $209.3 million budget, but more school aid might bring it down. White Plains' future faces immediate settlement of a series of union contracts. New development completion appears 4 years away. County legislature is silent on progress of Playland review, but the county will hold a Playland job fair at Westchester County Center Saturday. Polish up your armor. Man of La Mancha opens at Westchester Broadway Theater and makes the impossible dream live again.
Thank you, Jim. And now let's go to the White Plains Week Orlo Newsreel March of Time for March 11th, 2016. And, of course, first up is the Prelude. Tell us about the Prelude, Jim.
The Prelude is a new building, the first of a number of buildings that will be built to replace what was at Winbrook, and the new name for the whole complex is going to be Brookfield Commons. I guess it was, I would say it was close to 200 people.
Yeah, close to 200.
Close to 200 people gathered for the ribbon cutting ceremony, and that was for the Prelude, the building itself, and the education center that's on the ground floor. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There were like 10 speakers. Matt Carter, who's the executive director of the White Plains Housing Authority, was first. Then the mayor spoke. Then the developer, Jonathan Rose, who built the building. And then somebody from the White Plains Education and Training Center, a participant in the program, spoke. Laura Rossi, an executive director of the Westchester Community Foundation, spoke. David Walsh, Nita Lowy, and finally Robert P. Astorino, the county executive.
Yeah. How many, so the center is already open and training, right?
Yes.
And the youth bureau is supervising that. Who is doing the training? Did they mention?
They didn't specifically mention who was doing the training, and I think there's, I think J.P. Morgan Chase did a lot of the financing for it. And I think Bank of America did the financing on the building, the apartments.
42 million on the whole building. 42 million. Shipping in 3.5 White Plains, a million and a half, something like that. Yeah. And they started this, talking about this about 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's taken quite a bit of time for them to get it underway. But I think there is 103 tenants that, I don't know whether they're all moved in, but a number of them are. One of the tenants spoke, and she had moved into another Winbrook building and then was moved to this, and she's recently, and
well, the idea was to replace all of the Winbrook public housing facilities with new buildings to upgrade, and the pledge was not to displace any families living there. Anyone who currently was living in Winbrook would be able to live in the new buildings if they so chose. Now, we understand that they have emptied out a second building at this point, and the residents from, I believe it's 135 South Lex, have been moved into the new building. Is that correct?
Well,
the idea is that
135, I didn't know about another building that they had emptied, but 135 is what's going to be torn down. And they've already started blocking up the windows, and I think, I asked Matt Carter how long it would take for them to tear that building down. And he said he thought, he didn't know for sure, about 6 months as a guesstimate. So he says all the power has been turned off and everything, and they're boarding up windows. Got the lower floors done. If you go by there, you can see it.
So based on this timeline, it may be another 3, 4, maybe 5 years before the project is entirely completed. If we figure it's a year to 18 months to replace each
And they got 4 buildings to go.
Yeah.
And
originally they were going to build 7.
The bid information is going out for the second building. He said somewhere in the next 2 to 4 weeks. I'm not. I think he said it would probably be maybe 6 or 8 months before that would be able to be gotten underway.
And
they are also
2 years later it'll be completed.
He was just talking generally. He wasn't saying this was actually in the works, but they are talking about trying to make a plan for the entire rest of the project so that they don't have to
try to expedite it because it took so long to get to this stage.
Well, they need to expedite it because people were waiting a long time.
Right, and so as far as the training center goes, they're going to take kids from Winbrook or wherever throughout the city and train them to do certain jobs in the food service industry.
Well, it's not
for
only
instance,
food service.
White Plains Hospital needs employees.
They trained home health aides, and I saw John Martin, who was not at the ribbon cutting.
The councilman.
He's councilman, and he. I was asking about how they were financing that. And he said he didn't think that there was any cost to the city that stuff was going to be
for
financed.
running the training center.
Yeah. And I think the culinary training is the biggest part of it. But they also are going to have a cafe there that's going to be open to the public.
That will be run by the trainees, much like the Culinary Institute. If you go up there, in the Hyde Park, I think they're located. You can dine at restaurants run by the students at the Culinary Institute.
Yeah, and in another event, which took place on Westmoreland Avenue, where you have your offices, the old WARC building has been approved by the city for renovation.
Yeah, the council voted on that Monday night at their regular meeting, and the project, I believe, calls for something like 70 studio apartments to be put into what was initially a factory. Early on in 1947, the Norden company, which made bomb sites, which made them famous in World War II, moved in there and kept producing these bomb sites in that building here in White Plains. They were not used during the war because they didn't move from the city up to White Plains until the war had ended.
Yeah.
But the building has a bit of history attached to it.
Yeah.
So the council voted for this plan.
I had those figures in my head, and I can't remember them. I forget the total number of units.
I'm pretty sure that it's around 70 units, because there was some talk at the council meeting about why wasn't this developer required to put in 7 units of affordable housing. So if it's 10%, it has to be affordable housing. Then it would be 70 units, or thereabouts. And
Okay, it's 65. Actually, it's 65.
65.
Units.
Okay.
And the majority of the units are studios. Then there are some 1-bedrooms, and there are 2 or 3 2-bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And
$15.6 million project, and they are getting an IDA support.
yes,
County
they got
announced
that. Apparently, that was approved.
And so that means that they'll save some money on taxes, like they won't have to pay sales tax on materials used in construction,
And probably
stuff like that. When you get IDA financing, that's
Yes.
one of the things that helps out.
Yeah, I wish we could get IDA financing. You know what I'm saying? All right.
Let's apply.
That's right. Exactly. But what do you think? This is an attempt at taking an industrial area and gentrifying it. And what do you think? Is this going to work, in your opinion? I mean, you know real estate.
Well, we had looked at this building and we had designed something entirely different. We had much bigger units, much more expensive units.
The we being the Benerofe Properties company.
And we really couldn't get it to work financially. It was then bought by some other investors, and they apparently couldn't get it to work financially the way they wanted. And now I don't really know. I think it's Norden LLC, but I don't know who that is specifically. And this seems like it, financially at least, it's going to work. And the reason that they didn't require affordable housing was that it's more expensive to renovate an old building than it is to build brand new stuff.
You have to update all the infrastructure.
Yeah.
The city initially took the position that the affordable housing requirement really doesn't apply to this area because when the
It's a change of zoning.
It's a change,
Yeah.
and when it was changed, it wasn't expanded, or the affordable housing requirement was not expanded to cover this area. Interestingly, at the meeting, Councilwoman Nadine Hunt Robinson, who lives in the Fisher Hill area, said that there's plenty of affordable housing in the area right now, so we really don't need it on this site anyway.
Wow.
That's paraphrasing what she said.
It'd be nice if we had a list of what they were. Yeah.
In other words, they want the area, they want to upgrade the area. If you keep putting in more and more affordable housing, it's not necessarily going to be upgraded.
Yes, well, the people who get into the affordable housing should be able to afford it.
As kind of a tease, Mayor Roach.
I don't think that the units. I don't know what they'll rent for, but I don't think they're going to be super expensive.
Well,
as a tease, Mayor Roach mentioned that they're working on something on the Swackhammer Lumberyard site. If you remember that old site, which is pretty much across the street from this particular building, he didn't disclose exactly what their intent is.
Because the guy that owns Swackhammer, I know, and he's doing some things to the building for his own use. They're not going to use that building. I don't think. There may be a plot of land that he has that's next to that was part of the Swackhammer.
Well, as I said, the mayor said, he was not specific, but he did mention
he's never very specific. That's the point.
When did he say this?
It was at the shortly after they closed the hearing on this Norden building.
Right. Well, meanwhile, speaking of closing hearings, it was another interesting week on the campaign trail.
Was it ever?
Yes.
And more controversy, ranging from Donald Trump making a pledge to be a bit more civil to his fellow candidates at the GOP debate, which ran last night. We're recording this on Friday. At the rallies, though, what Trump had been doing, which caused a bit of a stir, was asking people to take a pledge and that they are going to vote for him, and they take the pledge by raising their right arm. And when he was doing that, it immediately caused Black Entertainment Television, several other media outlets, and a lot of people on the internet to go apoplectic, because the visuals of people taking the pledge to vote for Trump reminded them of this. And this, of course, is of a Nuremberg rally from the propaganda film Triumph of the Will, made by the Nazis. And I'll tell you, there are people taking a pledge with their right arms raised right there. And the pledge they're taking has nothing to do with voting for Donald Trump.
Right.
Quite a controversy. Now, Trump was interviewed. He did a telephone interview with the folks on the Today Show shortly after this controversy exploded. And his reply was, well, and again paraphrasing, that he didn't know much about it.
What?
And that he can't control what people do at his rallies.
Oh, so who was it that asked them to take the pledge?
It was Mr. Trump who asked
a
him to take the
spokesperson
pledge.
for Trump?
Yeah.
Nobody speaks for Donald Trump.
No.
No.
Trump did it himself, and he demonstrated how to raise your right arm. In any event, I think from this point on, if I can guess, I don't think we're going to see much more of the right arm raised at
How
Trump
about the
rallies.
Black Power salute?
Well, that's slightly different.
Yes, that was slightly different. Right? Or the Pledge of Allegiance.
The other,
that would be very
the other interesting controversy coming out of a Trump rally this past week was that a person who was in the audience at one of the rallies in Florida was part of the Black Lives Matter protest movement, and did a few shout-outs during the rally, was escorted out by state police who happened to be there, and on the way out, he was slugged by a member of the audience.
Ah.
The police, in turn, rather than arresting the person who slugged this guy they were escorting out, pushed the guy to the ground, put handcuffs on him.
The person who was being escorted out.
The protester, that's correct, who was being escorted out.
And they did not arrest the slugger.
It wasn't until video surfaced of the police inaction followed by the police action that the following morning they arrested the guy who had
By the way,
slugged,
what
at
was
least,
the
spectator.
nationality or ethnic
The
persuasion of the protester?
The protester happened to be black. The slugger happened to be white.
Well,
The policeman.
why does that not surprise me?
The policeman
Yeah.
visible in the video happened to be white.
Listen, we got to be more conscious of this. And now,
so much for the campaign trail.
well, we got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Now, Commissioner of Education is coming to White Plains, New York, USA. And there she is, the shocker of the week. This was released yesterday by the school district that Mary Ellen Aaliyah will be meeting with administrators of Westchester schools and superintendents of schools all day at White Plains High School on Monday in the Media Center. And she also wants to hear from the public, and the public can come on by after 4 p.m. We'll try and give you details.
Okay, so this is going to be this coming Monday. If you're seeing the show after this coming Monday,
Yeah.
it's too late.
It's
right?
too late if you're seeing it Monday night. But
Right.
we mentioned it on our website yesterday, and people should be aware of it. Now, what I have some interesting questions that we should really ask Commissioner Aaliyah, and the question I have is a former school superintendent in the Bronx at White Plains, in the Bronx, Betty Rosa, is expected to be named Chancellor of the Board of Regents, replacing the test-oriented Merrill Tisch. And we would like to know if, since this Ms. Rosa supports opting out of assessment tests last year, what will be her influence on the testing? Who will vet the new tests? We'd like to know that. Will they be shorter, easier? And the Common Core overhaul. We want to know what kind of overhaul it's going to be and who is going to approve the new improved Common Core.
Why is this significant? I believe it's significant because anytime you bring someone into an office of public importance, you want to know what their preconceived notions are, what
Yes.
their biases may be, so that you can judge whatever happens in that context. So
This
you
is
can,
not good.
So you can be sure that people who are elevated to high positions can address things in an unbiased, well-balanced, to quote Fox, fair and balanced manner.
Yes. Well, I tell you, I don't see how you can possibly appoint someone chairman of the Board of Regents who urge people to opt out of testing. I just don't see how you can do that. Very big mistake, I think. Now, speaking of other things around town, how does this affect the school district? Well, the school district, the White Plains School District, is working through the budget. And right now, with the assessment roll flat, they have to, unless they get more school aid, increase taxes $15 a thousand, about $15 to make up that shortfall in the assessments.
So it's around 5 or 6.
Yeah.
It'll be around 5 or 6% tax increase on your school taxes. If
Maybe
they do
not that
right?
high, about 4% maybe. But more of the instruction budget is to come, and school aid must go up to avert any tax increase. But of course, they always increase taxes. And they never cut the budget either. A new big bond issue is coming up next year. That is an important issue. We can't just keep bonding 30, 40, 50 million every three years or so. And how good are the schools we have if assessments are made easier? I mean, we are not going to know where we are. Now, down in the city, the state of the city, since we haven't received the state of the city message yet, if we could have the next slide,
You're talking
please.
about White Plains City or
right.
New York City?
White Plains City. Is there any other?
Well, there are.
I mean, everybody pays attention to New York, but there's nothing we can do about that. Now, the city is negotiating with its other labor unions under the pressure of a terrific settlement that the police got through 2018. They got up to 2.75, I believe, in the third year, and that is going to
2.75% increase.
Yes, and the intriguing thing about that is the other unions are going to want to play catch-up ball, particularly the firemen who got no raises the last 3 years.
If you were in another union, wouldn't you want to play catch-up?
I'm not saying it's wrong. I am pointing out some of the pressures that the city is going to be addressing. And of course, Jim, the lackluster city economy, which we speak about for years now. And betting on residential buildings that will not be here for 4 years at best. And that's an optimistic statement on my part. Are parking revenues soft as the city shopping entertaining declines?
Well, I think they speeded up the parking revenues in the last 24 hours.
And
Why, have you gotten more tickets?
I got a ticket, and they ticketed everybody on the block, so I am assuming they ticketed all the people that were at the ribbon cutting.
Well, you know, that's really going to encourage people to go to ribbon cuttings and other city-sponsored
and
events
parades,
in White
which
Plains.
are tomorrow. And don't forget,
we
ticket during the parades.
That's
yes.
Saturdays.
Yes.
Yep, have to put money in the meters.
Absolutely. And the final item, of course, in the state of the city that I think the mayor has to start thinking about is the refocus of the Galleria and the train station could stress dwindling city coffers if they happen too slowly. Because if you take out the Galleria retail, that's a big chunk. Because we don't know whether it's
we don't know that anyone's
we
going to
don't
take
know.
it out. In fact, we had Burger King open up there just, last week?
That's turning around the economy right now, I'm telling you. And now, some other things. News on Playland. There is no news. That's the state of Playland. We don't know on that beautiful sunny day we had this week.
It has disappeared.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't see the Ferris wheel. I didn't see the dragon coaster in that picture, John. Where did they go?
We're experimenting with new graphics, Peter.
Children's Museum says they're open, right?
Yeah, but it's not open, and there's nothing inside it really happening.
They had the sign out front which says we're open and admission is $7.
Right.
Children under 1 are free. Or 1 year or under.
But there's been no, job fair tomorrow, Saturday, March the 12th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Westchester County Medical Center.
No, the county center, not the medical center.
Oh, man, Westchester County Center. Yeah. Pardon me, talking fast in the last 40 seconds. And Man of La Mancha opened up last night.
I'll ask the governor to give you a pardon.
Right, Man of La Mancha opened up last night at the Westchester Broadway Theater. Peter, a capsule review.
It's a great show. It's an intellectual show. It requires you to pay some attention, but of course, the classic song, "To Dream the Impossible Dream," came from that show, and it's a theme throughout. The staging was absolutely magnificent.
This is a dungeon, and that effect that they have there is chilling every time it comes down during the course of the show.
But just like Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, we are tilting with windmills right here on White Plains Week.
Yes. John Bailey, Jim Benerofe, Peter Katz. Good night for White Plains Week.
White Plains Week has been a presentation of White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com, in cooperation with Channel 76. Comments may be emailed to WPCNR@AOL.com. The copyrighted print White Plains Cityscape by Leonard Weber is used courtesy of the White Plains Presbyterian Church. For information on its availability, you may contact the church at 761-8585. The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. For White Plains Week, this is Seth Benerofe speaking.